Hello, Wilmette. Welcome to the pre-game hangout here with the Dungeon Scrollers. We are about to do the next episode of Path Arcana, but first, we're just going to hang out for a bit and chat. We were talking about Seattle vampires and real estate for a while, but the floor is open for whatever we want to talk about. What's new, everybody?
I did my first real hike of the season last weekend, which filled me with joy.
Cool.
Oh yeah, that's right. We're supposed to go hiking. What, this weekend? Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's almost like I texted you about it this morning and haven't
You
heard back.
did, yeah. I'm sure that'll be fine. What could go wrong?
I got my Yellowstone vacation all booked.
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna go and I'm gonna see like one thing, but that'll be okay because it'll be the one thing in Yellowstone. Because I was like,
Are we allowed to know what the one thing is?
well, I mean, just like because I was doing research and I was like, wow, the drive times on this are really long, and then all my friends are like, yeah, like there'll be like traffic stop for animals and like dumb tourists, and like it'll take even longer to drive anywhere in the park. And I was like, so basically like I get in there and I can get somewhere, wherever that is. But I mean, I'm basic, so I will probably do like the Old Faithful thing, and there's various like museums and stuff, and I know that like what you're supposed to do in Yellowstone is go hiking and see the aminals, but
Aminals.
I'm pretty sure it's pronounced hamimals.
Hamimals.
That's right.
I heard
The H is not silent.
Really wise bear that can teach yoga in the park.
the yogi
bear,
yeah.
I have to say, I'm partial to the geothermal stuff. Old Faithful is kind of cool, but even cooler, in my opinion, are the like ridiculously like rainbow colored like bacterium fueled like pools that are not very far away, and the sort of sulfurous mud pots and things like that. I really enjoy those. For me, the animals are more like just stay back. You're good right there. I actually drove through Yellowstone once and was about to cross a bridge, and a herd of buffalo beef were running at speed across the bridge towards my car. And I very much was like, reverse, because I did have a manual then. If the kids these days know what a manual is, and like hit reverse and backed up far enough so that and I was like, there's no place to go, so like let's just hope they don't run up and down and over my car. And thankfully they veered, but I was like, that's intense. That was a lot. You just stay back, animals. You just stay over there, and I'll appreciate you from afar.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was polling my coworkers about where to go if any of them had been there before. And it, of course, it went by personality too, because one of my coworkers like is really into rock climbing and super like adventurous that way. She's like, oh, you'll lose all the tourists if you do this like really super steep hike. And I'm like, cool. I think I'm like resigned to the tourists, because super steep hike is not kind of what I was looking for. But then one of my other coworkers was like, well, be sure to take bear spray. I'm really scared of bears, and I read all about them in Yellowstone. And I'm like, okay. She'd never been there, but she was concerned that I take the bears into account.
But the bears are at peace. I keep talking about this. Nobody's listening to me.
Well,
They're really centered.
I'm sort of hoping, since I'm going to do like the big ones, like the Old Faithfuls and the artist paint pots or whatever they're called, and whatever, that like they'll be crowded, but crowds mean no bears,
right?
So that I won't have to worry too much.
Or if there are bears, there will be someone less intelligent than you that is like, hi bear, hi, and you Yes.
Yeah, you don't have to be the fastest or the smartest. You just have to be faster and or smarter than at least one other person in your
And one
party.
other person. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not super worried about the bears. I'm not going to be hiking, but there's a series of books about the wolves of Yellowstone, and like I like me some wolves, but the thing is that you can go to the area where they are around, but I mean they're free roaming. Like you don't know for sure that you're going to be able to like pinpoint them. And I was like, Wolf Haven in Washington, it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I could just go there and like see wolves, and they wouldn't be in the wild. But I don't know. I feel like
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
books, like reading about their behavior on the large scale, you can't get large scale from like seeing them one time through a spotting scope. So that's my
fair.
story, and I'm sticking to it. I mean, I like those books a lot, but it's the Wolves of Yellowstone by Rick McIntyre. I recommend them to everybody because people sort of vaguely know that the whole like pack pecking order hierarchy alpha omega thing is a myth, but I think that people haven't quite figured out like what's the reality. And what those books lay out is just like a wild pack, not studied in captivity, so it's not like a weird kind of like pressure cooker strangers shoved together kind of thing, and how the pack behavior works. And he follows a couple wolves who are the opposite of what you would think of the big dominating violent types who have so much success, like a ton of pups all survive, and like their pack eats really, really well, and like all kinds of stuff like that. So peaceful, the way to go, even when you're a wolf.
Nice. Do you like parkitecture?
I mean, yes, I like historical buildings. And in the West Coast, that means WPA and CCC. And those are cool, but like I've seen a lot of them. But I feel like, doesn't Yellowstone have some older stuff? I know there's Fort Yellowstone too. Fort Yellowstone is on my list.
The Yellowstone Lodge is pretty special. Just the vastness of the interior space alone, and the sort of stone and wood construction is. I went to school for architecture, so that I'm kind of a nerd
cool.
for it. Oh, what
Nice.
the things about revealing personalities where I'm like, really, the thing about the natural beauty place is the thing that people built.
Well, I mean, so you're talking to the archaeologist. So the archaeologist is like going to the natural beauty place and like, yeah, animals, yeah, geology. Hey, they got the, Fort Yellowstone and the this and the that. And I am apparently required as an archaeologist to view the obsidian cliffs. Like I read up on them, and like it's kind of like you go and you view them and you're like, wow, that's pretty cool. But they're an obsidian source that like got traded all over a huge area. So
I know about those, but I feel like that place is cool enough. Can you just rabbit hole about that for a second? Because it's really cool and everyone needs to know about it.
Well, I don't know it like specifically, because I know obsidian sources like in Oregon, because Oregon gets the cool obsidian sources that you're seeing sort of in the Willamette Valley, which is our office now. That's where a lot of our archaeology is being done, and then up into sort of Washington State. And so honestly, it's really cool reading some of the reports where they had the ability to send obsidian off for sourcing, because chemically you can tell where it came from. And so you're like, okay, I got this site here, and they have obsidian from way the hell over there and way the hell over there. And thinking about, was it people sort of passing hand to hand? Or was it people who sort of like went and got it and then came back and then did some trading, or like all just kinds of cool stuff? And so the stuff is found just hundreds of miles from its source. And that's not just like a bucket chain of people only moving like 5 miles. So clearly there was a lot of traveling going on. And I think that obsidian sourcing is pretty cool. Because there's a lot of stuff in archaeology where it's like, well, we don't know, maybe, and get really, but you can get radiocarbon dates from organic artifacts. So basketry is my shtick, and so you can get a date actually on the basket, as
Mhm.
opposed to the trouble with stone tools is like, okay, you got a stone tool. Sometimes you can get a date, like people they try real hard. But mostly it's like, oh, the stone tool is on top of some charcoal. Like, so you got to be careful sometimes.
Yeah.
But there's nothing quite like being like, I had a basket. I took a snippet of that to the lab. That basket is 3,000 years old. And obsidian sourcing is similarly magic for me. To be like, hey, we're in the Willamette Valley. Like, this is from Crater Lake. Like, cool.
Yeah. I have a thought, but also like I feel like that Rhiannon and I can just go on this forever. So I'm gonna pause and see if anyone else wants to change the subject before I keep going.
I mean, we brought up vampires.
Yes.
Is that
Because,
your area of expertise? You figure
Kind
out?
of. Well,
Well, I mean,
kind
look at
of,
her background, right?
Kind of. I mean,
Although there aren't any vampires so far in Grey Mantle that you know of.
no,
Anyway,
that
go on.
that you know of. Yeah, I mean, like I mean, vampires do exist in this setting. They are out there. I just haven't done anything with them yet.
Mm.
But yeah, no. I've had a concept for a vampire percolating recently that I am dying to play in Vampire the Masquerade. It's not too spoilery to talk about it here. I don't know. I have a place I'm gonna play it, but it's like just kind of a private game. But I'd kill to play in an actual play of vampire.
Well, I
But-
do hope one of these days we will eventually have a vampire game on the stream. I think that would be really
killer.
cool.
That would be killer. I mean, it'd be also awesome to branching out into another system like that would be pretty cool too. But this concept is a Malkavian musician, right? Who generally her whole vibe is centered around music. So like a lot of her quirks and the little quirky aspects of her like curse, her derangement are centered around music. She she constantly tends to have like headphones either on or just kind of sitting around her neck that are just kind of like playing music because she gets agitated if she can't hear some kind of music at some point. It's calming. Tends to like tap out rhythms a lot without realizing it. But my favorite part, and the part that I'm really excited to explore, is that she does have that kind of oracular thing that Malkavians can do, right? And but the way she does it is she'll go into these kind of like zoned out states where she just starts writing, and she writes all of her visions as song lyrics. Like she'll snap out of it and not remember any like writing any of it. She doesn't know what any of it means. But
this is a neat concept.
Yeah, like I've like it's actually, you might remember some of it, Eric, because it's that song lyric thing is cribbed directly from Caitlin from our old
I was gonna say it sounds very familiar as well.
Yeah,
From something you did before. It's very cool.
Yeah, I didn't really get to explore that very much, so I was just like, all right, I wanna do this. I flipped the script a little bit with the character. So though I talked to Karen already, I have borrowed Felicia as the sire.
Cool.
That was more of a bite and dump.
Yeah,
That can happen
that would be
sometimes.
neat. You'll have to keep us in the loop about how that goes.
Yeah, I will definitely. I mean, if I got the chance to play her in an actual play, I would probably do that too, just because I like the concept. And as someone who is very like I want to play a decent, like a Malkavian that is like well portrayed, because like as someone who does suffer from mental illness and and who is neurodivergent, like these aspects of the character fascinate me, and there'll be
Mhm.
ability to play that in a way that is representative without being like exploitative or stereotypical, especially the way some people play Malkavians as just like straight over the top nonsense characters.
Right.
Like a friend of mine and I were talking about just how often we see in basically every chronicle we play, someone is playing a Malkavian who thinks they're Alice from Alice in Wonderland. Almost always.
Bunny
It's-
Well, I mean,
slippers.
classic trope.
And some
I-
of them are better portrayed than others, but they all get a bit much, in my opinion.
I did hear that there was going to be a third Alice video game, but unfortunately, EA recently decided to kill it. So it's going to be called Alice Asylum because American McGee has an aesthetic. And it was in development up until like just a month or two ago. And unfortunately, it appears to be dead once again. Is it dead permanently? Who can say? I mean, probably, but you know, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, that game goes back, you know, decades at this point. That series is it's a little remembered classic.
Yeah, those games don't get enough credit. I think they are better than people, I think, realize. So
A huge amount of goth culture in those games too.
oh yeah,
Especially in the second one, because it's all about changing into the very weird goth outfits. Yeah. Okay. So once upon a time, a good friend of mine who also lives here in Seattle, he might or might not be on the stream, wrote a treatment of Seattle for a vampire build.
I was just looking
And
at it while you were talking.
some
be honest.
time ago, I said, yeah, we should get together and play this game. That would be great with, you know, a couple friends of mine who are big vampire people. And then like the pandemic hit, and then I was like, oh no. Because I don't know if Ben gives off the extrovert energy, but he is very much a like prefers to play with people in person sort of thing. And there was just a long time where we couldn't do that. So I'm hoping that we can resuscitate that idea one of these days, because I think that would be really neat.
And also, I just desperately need to play a Tremere.
yes.
Shocking, literally no one.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
my go-tos are usually La Sombra or Hikata, like the which I love the Hikata just because, like, as much as I like the Giovanni, I've always kind of liked the other sides of the Clan of Death better. So having them like in the current material, having them all kind of like put back together into a single clan is just excites me. My favorite are the Lamia, surprising no one.
Mm.
Well, I mean, like a hugely massively hyper feminist Bahari, like, you know, dark mother worshipping sect of necromancers
Yeah.
who are also warriors is very choice. I love them so much. But La Sombra, I just because come on, shadow powers. Anyone who knows me by now knows that I have a thing. I have a theme, and that theme is shadow powers.
It's true. I was
Quick
gonna
poll
say,
of the call.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce the flesh crafting clan of vampires? I will go first because I feel like there was a source book that attempted to explain it. Shimishe?
That's probably right, but I just say Zamishi just because it's easiest.
I say Shimizi.
So we have three
Okay.
different pronunciations.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember because I was in a vampire LARP for a while. LARP was not for me, but I was needed to make new friends in undergrad.
Yeah.
Fair.
That can happen. Yeah.
I mean, I've
And-
made a
and
lot
I
of
think
lifelong friends in LARP.
I recall Probably more like Allie's, but it never came up for me to say it. I'm curious if people can guess the character, what clan they were that I had.
I want to guess Toreador.
Or Gangrel.
Toreador.
Okay.
I have
Okay.
never, I have never played a Gangrel, and I keep wanting to play one, but I always keep having these other ideas.
Yeah.
I played a
that bounced-
Gangrel one time, and
Yeah.
it was very memorable, and he had
Oh,
a
yes,
very
it
hard
was.
time.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you start boffing a werewolf, okay?
Well, I mean, it wasn't entirely his fault. Yeah, it was. Anyway, but yes, I was gonna say, like, if we do a vampire game, I might have to recruit Rhiannon to be a vampire archaeologist. I'm just saying.
They exist. I mean, look at Beckett.
Yeah, I was gonna
Right.
say.
I'd have an
Who
easier
is a
time being a
gangrel.
werewolf than a vampire. Like,
I mean, yeah, you could do that too.
Oh, that would be
Path
weird.
of Humanity.
Well, I mean, it depends. Oh, oof. I mean, the systems aren't really meant to cross over like that, Eric.
Doesn't mean it can't happen.
One werewolf can like blender an entire coterie of vampires the way that the older systems are set up, and the current ones don't really have an easy crossover because the werewolf book isn't out yet.
I'm just waiting for my John Wick World of Darkness supplement.
Right?
Mm,
Well, because that is so World of Darkness. That is
Right.
absolutely World
Yeah.
of Darkness.
yeah.
But yeah, that would be fun. I think if we do play, I do heavily vote for V5, especially since we might be able to reach out and see if we can get some help from Paradox, maybe.
Maybe.
I mean, like, can we do V5, but can we like change it so that the Tremere are like they were back in the 90s and
See,
cooler?
I prefer the Tremere as they are now, so I would not want that.
You know what? I will say I am open to being educated because I think I purchased the V5 was like the big, like just
Mhm.
big red brick of a book, right? Or am
It's
I
not red.
thinking of-
It's V5 is kind of purple. It's
It's got the lady with the blood on her face on the front.
gosh, maybe I'm not even
That
up to
doesn't
date
really
on
narrow
that
it
one.
Yeah, the
down.
way-
I'm
Be
sorry.
a little bit more specific, Eric.
It's the
'cause-
book you gave to me, Ben.
Oh, okay, then yeah, that's the one that I read.
'cause,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
the-
I just remember opening the original source book, being super excited when the new edition came out, and I was like, Tremere, where's the Tremere? And then it was like, nope, dead to me. Don't like it.
I mean,
Don't like
what
the
about
entire
it?
edition.
What about it? Did you were you not into?
Okay,
'Cause
well, at this point, it's been years since
Fair.
I've read it. So
Fair.
that's why I'm saying I'm open to being re-educated about what the
mean-
situation is, especially if there's more material out, because my memory of reading it was like the Tremere are basically non-existent and suck now.
No, I mean,
Okay.
basically just that the pyramid's fractured into three major factions.
Mm,
The Vienna Chantry got torched by the Inquisition,
right.
and the structure of the clan itself has broken down. So there's three major houses. There's House Tremere, which operates exactly the same as the pyramid always did. There's House Karna, which are more into the kind of like witchy, spooky, kind of like more new agey aspects of magic. A lot more women in Karna, I'll
Mhm.
note. Like part of their whole creation was due to the fact that the founder of the house was like, enough of this patriarchal bullshit. I want to do my own thing.
Hmm.
And then House Goratrix is back,
Oh.
and also Camarilla aligned now.
Hmm.
Interesting.
And the leader of House Goratrix is supposedly Goratrix himself, though they leave it very, very vague. Because he's supposed to be dead, but also might be Tremere in Goratrix's body. So it's a whole thing. They
Oh,
leave
yeah.
it super vague. Like even the bit in the Camarilla book that has like a narrative conversation between the three house heads, they don't ever name the Goratrix leader. Like they have Karna there, they have Karl Schrecht, who leads House Tremere, and then there's just the unnamed Goratrix leader who's all shadowy and mysterious. But we
Yeah.
are also at 25 after, so I think
Yep.
we ran out of time.
Time for commercials. We could talk about vampire for hours and hours and hours.
Yes,
So
we could.
let's do our commercial, play some D&D, and we'll see you in a moment.